Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing well. No one to talk with, I'm all by myself. Oh, hang on, there's everyone, they're in the comments section. Ain't misbehaving, I've saved my favourite workshop for you. I hope you're all doing well, everyone. So, welcome to Wednesday afternoon's live ukulele lesson with me, Matt Stead, and this is probably my very favourite workshop that I've delivered in recent times. Partly because I was incredibly lucky to get to go to Hawaii to do it with Sarah Maisel and Craig Chi, and that was just like it's the holiday of a lifetime, which is just wonderful, and we got to hang out with them, so it's got very special memories. But it's also one of my favourite workshops just for what's presented as well, because we've got a really cool old jazz tune, Ain't Misbehavin by Fats Waller. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how we can take kind of some quite, wouldn't say boring chords, they're already beautiful, but we're going to find new ways to play them. So we get these lovely beautiful chromatic runs going on, which is really, they're a real ear tickler. They sound absolutely fantastic. So ask loads of questions as we go, guys. I'm going to dip into a fair bit of theory today, so if there's something you're not sure of, just ask, and if I'm not able to answer it in that moment, I've got some brilliant helpers in the comments section who I'm sure would interject to help as well. So any questions, please ask away. Things to tell you before I get started, just for kind of regular followers of my stuff. Next week I'm having a couple of days break, just Monday and Tuesday of next week, to spend a bit of time with the kids before they go back to school. So we don't have Canna Capilla Mondays this coming Monday, the next one, but the week after we'll be back with another Canna Capilla, and we'll be back with another live lesson as well. So these are every 2 weeks, the live lessons on Wednesday. If you haven't already downloaded the worksheets, they're still available via a link in the description. I'll have them up on screen as well, and I'll make them as big as I can so you can follow them. But if you're able to, there's links to where you can donate them. And as always, just a massive thank you to all your kind donations. They've really kept me going. I always hate when people. It's awful, isn't it? Like begging for money and stuff. But those of you who know already who live in England, and I'm sure it's the same around the world where you are, just everything's just shot up, hasn't it? I got my energy bill and it's quadrupled my direct debit for this place in the last month. It's like, oh. So I'm really, really appreciative of your generosity. And when I put these worksheets together, I have the 2-tier system where you can either buy them for £4 or £8, and you guys are just so incredibly generous. But any whether you go for the £4 or £8 is really, really gratefully received. So thank you, guys. And if anyone is struggling, because it is really hard times at the moment, isn't it? If anyone is struggling, please let me know, and I'll send you the worksheets for free as well, because I really want everyone to be able to take part. Anyway, enough rambling. Oh, a fun thing to tell you about just before we get started is that I have, by popular request, some t-shirts. A couple of people have asked me whether they can have a t-shirt like the one I wear. So some of my students that have been following my videos and whatnot. And yes, I've finally got round to ordering some. So we've got men's and ladies. There's a ladies one. I used to just do the men's ones, and ladies could wear them as well, but I think it's nice to kind of have that different shape, isn't it? So those are available just via the website, mattsteadukulele.com. It's just a bit of fun. So if you're after one. Right, let's see who we've got here, and then we'll get started with the workshop. Let me know how the sound's going as well, people. I hope it's going all right. Oh no, Esther, pulled a muscle in your back. Oh no. Well, we'll keep it nice and chill today. Hopefully, hopefully a bit of smooth jazz will kind of help you to relax, which would be nice. Hi, Angela. Hi, Pierre. Or bonjour, I should say. And hi, Richard. Good to see you. Hi, Karen. Hope you're all doing well. And how is it where you are? It's kind of gone quite warm again here today. I had a fun morning. I was scouting some possible venues for next year's ukulele retreat, which, if you follow me on social media, you'll hear all about soon, which is really exciting. So yeah, brilliant. Hi, Karen. Oh, well done. You managed. Double checked the time and made it along. Brilliant. Hotel room in San Diego. That is so cool, Angela. Amazing. I think that's where Sarah Maisel was living before her and Craig moved to Hawaii, you know. I'm pretty sure. So, yeah. Hiya, guys. Hi, Peter. Oh, thank you. Karen's asking about my ukulele. This is, I thought I should use this ukulele because this is one that I brought home with me from Hawaii. Originally, it was going to be my keeper for life for ukulele. It's a custom made one by Canelair that I was going to bring home with me. But my Bo Hannum got delivered, the one for the river, whilst I was in Hawaii. So I kind of fell in love with that. And then I was lucky enough to get another new uke recently. So I have actually put this one up for sale. I'll be very gentle with it. I won't put any scratches in it. How cool is that neck? It's a 5-piece neck. But it's all maple. So Canelair normally make their ukuleles out of koa, don't they? You know, most famous Hawaiian wood. But this one's maple. People think of maple as bright ukes, but I was going to say in the right hands, but I don't mean that. I mean by the right luthiers, they can make it sound really nice and deep, which is lovely. Anyway, let's crack on and play some music, shall we? I'm jabbering on already. I'll save some of that for the end when we do the questions. Hi, Beth. Hope you're doing well. Okay, so what we've got here then. So, Ain't Misbehavin's a really, really famous jazz standard. Written by Fats Waller. I think the lyrics were by Andy Razaf. It's quite funny actually because it was written quite flippantly. The chords are really common jazz chords. And after Fats wrote it, allegedly he woke up the next day and he couldn't remember it. And luckily his lyricist was with him and reminded him, oh, we should put some words to that great tune you wrote. And he said, oh no, they're just standard jazz chords. And the lyricist kind of insisted. And it's good that they did because it became Fats Waller's biggest ever tune. So lovely little bit of kind of jazz history there, I think. So this uses some really common jazz chords. So all of the stuff that I'm going to teach you about today, you'll be able to apply it to other jazz pieces, and that's really important. So I'll try and explain about the chords and everything as well. So yeah, we'll get to that. So there we go. Oh, Victoria, just to let you know, I have seen your email. I've not been in very much this week, so sadly I've got a funeral to go to yesterday, and I was doing that retreat stuff today. But yeah, I am with you. I will get back to you. I absolutely promise. And Richard's got his cold pack of beers. Good. So the chords are really classic jazz chords. The first one, and we're just going to look at the standard chords as they're written by Fats Waller first. And how they're most commonly played on the ukulele. First one is just a C chord, that's your one chord. The next one is a really common chord in jazz, and that's a diminished 7. It's actually really easy to do. All we're going to do is 0, 1, 0, 1 down here. And that's an incredibly common progression to go from the one chord to the diminished 7th, which is half a step above. Then we've got the D minor 7, which is just like a D minor, but with your little finger added. Oops, it'd be helpful if I played it right, wouldn't it? And then finally, your G7. Okay, so that's often referred to as a diminished jazz vamp. We have the one chord, a diminished, the 2, the 5. Then we have something that's, again, really common in jazz and also blues music as well. We've got the one chord, which goes to the same chord as a 7th, and then an F, and we flip it for an F minor. The reason that C7 sounds so lovely between the C and the F is because 7th chords always feel, oh hi David, 7th chords always feel like they want to move somewhere. and they generally want to move to the chord that they're 5 above. And don't sweat this theory too much, but C7 is 5 above an F. That's why it makes you want to move to that F. And then the F minor builds up a little bit of tension and melancholy. And then we play out with probably the second most famous jazz progression of all time. C, A minor 7, no fingers at all, D minor 7, and G7. We call that a 1-6-2-5 progression. It just means it's named after those parts of the scale. So C is 1, and then you just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. A is 6, 1, 2, D is 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, D, E, F, G. G is 5. So we call that a 1, 6, 2, 5. Beautiful progression, really common. That's made famous by George Gershwin. You've probably heard me say it loads of times with I got rhythm. He kind of popularised that progression. It became really, really common to happen in jazz after that. And then finally, we almost have the same progression, but this time starting from an E7, an A7, a D7, and a G7. And that is probably the third most common jazz progression of all time, because that's the chorus of I Got Rhythm. I got an old man rhythm, he won't find me, you won't find him at my door. It's also the chorus to 5 for 2, eyes are blue, covered with fur, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, really common progression. Don't want you to worry about this, but just out of interest, if anyone's into it, that progression, we call it a backwards round the circle of fifths. If you've ever seen the circle of fifths and wondered what it is, it's a really neat way of just finding chords that fit together. And can you see the start of the arrow is on an E for E7, then we play an A7, then a D7 and a G7, and we're just going backwards around the circle of fifths. That's not a big part of today's lesson. I've just put that in incidentally, so don't sweat that. If you think, you know, don't worry at all. Just get used to playing the chords. The important thing comes in the next section. So let's try playing the first 4 lines then. You notice I'm just doing really gentle down strums using my thumb. Uke at a 45-degree angle. Try not to have it like that. That's especially important today, because we're going to do some bar chords. Notice that when I hold my uke at a 45-degree angle here, it's really comfortable for me to put this index finger across the frets for a bar. But if I do this, my finger's at the wrong angle. I have to go to a really unnatural position. So that's why we have it at this lovely 45-degree angle. And I'm just going to strum down gently with my thumb. Occasionally I'll follow that with a strum down with my nails, roughly where the uke meets the neck. That's where your sweet spot is. So just follow it through with me slowly. If you're not sure, just play what you can for now. Here we go. 2, 3, 4, C. No one to talk with, D minor 7, or by myself, G7. Next line. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on a shelf. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving all my love. Here's the backwards round the circle of fifths for you. Okay. Let's do the next few lines because they're pretty much the same. I know for certain the one I love, I'm through with flirting, it's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving all my love. This bit's a little bit awkward. We've got a C for you. Notice I use my little finger. Let me come to the close cam, because that allows me to put these two up here for the F minor. Take them away gives me the C again, and then an E7. Okay. Let's try that one more time through from the top of that page. I'll stay here so you can follow my hands. Okay, so 2, and oh, notice that every chord at the moment is pretty much 2 beats or 2 down strums. Okay, 2, 3, 4. no one to talk with, I'm all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving all my love. E7 for you, A7, D7, G7, and we do the same thing, another verse. I know for certain the one I love, see, I'm through with flirting, it's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving all my love for you. Little finger C, F minor, C and E7. Now notice we finish with this E7 on this page, and E7 is one of those seventh chords I talked about. These are called dominant chords. They make you want to move somewhere. Hi Audrey from Singapore, cool. So this E7 makes you want to move somewhere, and seventh chords, as I said, always want to resolve to a chord that's 5 below them. Well, 5 below E7 is A. A, B, C, D, E. See? That's E, that's A is 5 below it. So let's see what the next chord is on the next page. Ta-da! We've got an A minor in fact. We've got a minor. But isn't that interesting? Whenever you get these dominant chords, those sevenths, they want to go to a chord that's 5 below them. This bit we stay on the chords mostly for 4 in this first bit. It's relatively simple this, okay? You can think of it as the B section. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to play an A minor 7, no fingers at all, easiest ukulele chord in the world, right? Like Jack Horner, then an F. In the corner, fingers off A minor 7, don't go nowhere. A7, what do I care? Stay on G for a little while. Your kisses, now off for A minor 7, are worth D7, waiting for G7, A7, believe me. Let's try that once more with the close camera angle, just so you can follow my chords, okay? And if you really, really nerd out on this one, notice that each of the seventh chords, it goes to a chord that's 5 below it, even in this section. Super cool, right? D7, if you look on that third line, is 5 above G. Okay, GA7, that's the that's the anomaly that proves the rule. But you'll notice again, above believe me, D7 is 5 above G, and you'll find that all the time happening. Let's do that one more time then. I'll go really slow. A minor 7. Like Jack Horner, F. In the corner, off again. Don't go nowhere. A7. What do I care? Here's our G. Your kisses, off for A minor 7, are worth waiting for. A7. Believe me. G7 is 5 above C, which is the next chord. Here we go. I don't stay out late. There's our diminished. Don't care to go. I'm home about 8. Just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving. Saving all my love for you. Little finger C, F minor, and C. Okay, so those are the chords that are that were written originally by Fats Waller. The kind of basic chords underneath it all, basically. And this is taken from the chords I found. I took from a real book, a jazz book. So these are kind of definitely the underlying chords under the whole thing. Now have a listen to this. The first bit of the song sounds like this. Sounds okay, but it's not particularly exciting, is it? And it repeats again at the start of the next section, the fourth line down. What if we can take that progression and we can make it sound really beautiful? Isn't that lovely? Now it sounds like we're playing jazz, right? Because we're doing some really clever concepts. And that's what I'm going to explain next. So let's take a look at what I'm going to call a chromaticism in terms of passing chords. So this is where things start to get really super exciting. I'll turn to the sheet so you've got it in your sheets here, but on screen. But if you want to use the ones you've printed off at home, it's page 5. Okay. So here I've taken that opening line, the C sharp diminished 7th, D minor 7 and a G7. I've actually changed that chord. You'll see why in a minute. And we're playing them up the fretboard, which gives us a chance to expand up the fretboard, which makes things interesting in terms of timbre as well. Let me just show you how to play this and then I'll explain what's happening, which is really, really good fun. The first chord is a C chord, but in what I would call second position, because we're not down here in open, we've gone up here to the middle frets, okay? Some people call it third position because it's named after the third fret. It depends on your teacher. I've seen both. So this is our C chord, and that's the reason it's a C chord is we've just taken a B flat shape, B flat, B, C, and taken it 2 higher, which gives us a C. The next chord we're going to do is a C sharp diminished 7. Now you might think, hang on, we just played a C sharp diminished 7 here. But every chord can be played all over the place on your ukulele up and down the fretboard. All you have to do is find a collection of the same notes in a different order elsewhere. And that's what we're doing. And in fact, there's a really interesting little hack with diminished 7th chords. Diminished 7th chords repeat themselves every 3 frets on your ukulele. So if you imagine when we played that first one, let me come in close actually, which would look like this. Imagine we're playing that, but using these last, you don't have to do this, but you can if you want, using these last 2 fingers. It is the diminished 7th chord that we're going to play higher up, just move back, look. It's just that because these fall off the fretboard, they're not needed. So if you think of that as diminished shape 1, and this is diminished shape 2, and this is diminished shape 3, believe it or not, this next chord is diminished shape 1 again. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. They repeat every 3 frets up. So if this is a C sharp diminished, if we go 3 frets higher, this is a C sharp diminished. If we go 3 frets higher, this is a C sharp diminished. And believe it or not, this is a C sharp diminished. The reason I'm telling you that, you might think, oh gosh, boring music theory. Oh, I don't need that. But it's really useful. If you want to find a diminished shape further up the fretboard, you just play the same one you know further down, 3 frets higher, and you've got it. So that's our C sharp diminished. Quite a difficult one to play just off the bat. The way I think about it is if you get your little finger on the dot first, look at that blue dot, and then just play like a G major shape over the top. That will help you get that one. So there's our C sharp diminished. Again, you can take these away and practice them. Next up, we've got a D minor, and we're going to play that by just barring the whole of the 5th fret. That's not too bad, is it? Okay. So that's another version of this D minor 7. We're just playing it here. It's another different version. And that's like if you know your ukulele with no hands at all on it is an A minor 7. Well, we've just taken that up. A sharp minor 7, B minor 7, C minor 7, C sharp minor 7, D minor 7. Okay. Yeah, you can think of them as parallel chords, Audrey. Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, very, very nice Hawaiian feel for it. I think you're right. Okay. So that gives us some really lovely chords. The next one's quite tricky to do. You can do it 2 ways. I'll show you the way I like to do it. This G9 out, I've called it on your sheets. the last of the 4. What I tend to do is I bar the bottom 3 strings of the 5th fret with my 2nd finger. Then I play just the A string with my 3rd finger here on the next fret over. And then this finger just has to touch the top string. It doesn't have to press down on all 4. It just needs to touch that top one to allow it to ring out. Some people find that really difficult because this middle finger is kind of bending back on itself. If that is the case, you can actually play this as a 4-finger chord. It's a cool looking chord as well, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So here we're on the 4th fret, these 2 are on the 5th fret, and this one is on the 6th fret. And this is a G9 out. It's also known as a G9 augmented chord, or a G9 sharp 5. Crazy names, right? But they're not too bad once you get used to them. And a 9th chord is it's a dominant chord. It just means a chord named after the 5th scale degree. Again, don't worry about the music theory if you feel it's a bit too much for now. But anytime you play a G7, you can play a G9 to replace it. And when we look at how to do this later on, I'll explain that in a little bit more detail, so you have chord options. So we've basically got another version of the opening sequence. Now, what's interesting here is if you have a look at the note on the A string, that's the one that I've coloured in blue on your sheets, or if you've printed them out in black and white, it might look a sort of a lighter grey. Notice that as I play through these chords, the note on the A string has chromatic movement. What does chromatic movement mean? It means it just plays through all the notes one at a time, including the sharps or flats. Or another way of thinking about it is you're just playing 1 fret at a time. So on the A string, we have this. See if you can spot that if I do that again. Isn't that lovely? And it creates beautiful movement in our chords. And this is often referred to as voice leading, how one chord smoothly moves into the next. And this is what great jazz players do on all instruments. You get a quite ordinary sounding chord sequence, and it can sound so much richer and more interesting because we have this thread running through those chords, and it's this upward moving note, just 1 fret at a time. All right, so just have a little try of that. Just whilst I'm gabbing on about music theory, just have a little try playing through those chords, see if you can get them as best you can. If they're a bit kind of, a bit kind of like a bit chucky at the moment, don't sweat it. With practice, you'll get those. Just need to be really, really patient with yourself. Now, this is where knowing some chords up the fretboard is really important. And I've done a whole course on my YouTube channel. You can either look up here in the playlist. There's a playlist called Playing Up the Dusty End. Or if you go to my website, mattsteadukulele.com, it's all free. There's a free course that you can follow and start to learn these chords up the fretboard. Or Esther noticed, I had this in the background, this is my reference book, which has chords up the fretboard. So say you wanted to take chords up, like that original C, you would just look up a C major chord, say for instance here, and the normal C we play is that red dot, isn't it? And then the one that we're playing now is the orange, just over in that direction. And you could take it up even higher to the greens and even higher to the blues. So you don't have to buy this one. It is available via my website, mattsteadukulele.com. But there are other good chord books available. I learned from one from Roy Sakuma, who's a brilliant Hawaiian teacher. And I use that one. Hey, Mick. So if you're trying to think, how can I do this? First of all, you need to see if you can find some chords in second position to make the song travel somewhere. And then just see if you can find a chord that is nearby. So like instead of playing the C sharp diminished there, I played it up here, right? Which gave me the note there. And then I was thinking, how do I get a D minor 7 with a note here? Because that's the next note I want. Well, I just looked it up. Or it's in my brain. I can look it up in my brain, but you could look it up in a book. That D minor 7 was perfectly placed to have that note. The next one's interesting. So a 7th chord, like a G7, is called a dominant chord. And there are 2 other chords that are really similar. They're also dominant chords. If you're playing a 7th and you want a different, kind of slightly different sound, but similar, you can play a 9th or a 13th. And they're both very, very similar to a 7th, but they have more chord extensions, so they're a little bit more interesting to listen to. And this next one's really fascinating because I know how to play a G9 here. It's just one that I play all the time for jazz. And that was just, I call it big sausage, little sausage. My index finger covers all 4 strings at the 4th fret, and then either my 3rd or my 2nd finger covers the bottom 3 here. Now I knew that was a G9, but I wanted a chord with this finger here, and what I did was I experimented, and that's something you can do, right? If you know a chord up there like G9, try putting your finger down, and if it sounds good, it is good. It's one of my catchphrases. If something feels good and it sounds good, it is good, right? And it's only afterwards that I really looked into, what is this chord? And I had to work it out that it's a G9 with the 5th note from G, which is D, which is here, sharpened, which means it's a G9 augmented or G9 sharp 5, often referred to just as a G9 out. If you ever see out after a chord, it just means it's been altered in some way. But that's it. That's what you can kind of experiment with yourself. But let's do it. So C major up here, that's your B flat shape at 3 and 4. Then we're going to pull back to this diminished shape here, get this one in and add the G over the top. Bar the whole of the 5th fret. And then finally, that gorgeous G9 out. Isn't that lovely? I just love it. So what I've done, if you have a look back at our original sheets, on page 3 you've got the chords with added movement, I've called them. And if you've printed them off in colour, remember these are still available via the description, you'll see that the colours match the diagrams later on. So the bit that we just did, point in the right direction, is this line here with the blue around it. So you would just, if you want it in big to show you what's happening, you could go further in your sheets and just look at the blue table and that shows you. And the coloured dot is the chromatic movement. That just means the one that moves up 1 chord at a time. Beautiful way of playing voice leading. And you'll notice that I only do that in the 2nd verse. And this goes back to something I really strongly believe, that if you're playing 2 verses of the same thing, you should alter one of them to make it more interesting. It's more interesting for you as a player, and it's much more interesting to listen to as well. So notice I've actually only done these new chords the 2nd time round. First one is just the same as before. And that's create variety, isn't it? Which is, what is it? Spice of life, I think people say, isn't it? Just let me know if you've had any questions. I think there's a few back here. Oh, Pete's noticed something really handy. Let me just go back to the other one. So there's loads of different ways of doing things, isn't there? And Pete's noticed something really cool, that when he plays the D minor 7, if you play it with your 2nd finger, it means you're kind of in the right place then to change to that G9 out. So maybe have a go of that. Play the D minor 7 with your 2nd finger rather than the 1st. Really good spot, Pete. I love things like that. Economy of movement, isn't it? That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, cool. Let me know how you're getting on with that, folks. If that was all Greek to you, as long as you can kind of get the idea of how nice it sounds, that's the main thing anyway, isn't it? Just let me know if you've got any questions. And then I'll show you something else that's cool with this next bit. Let's go back to our altered sheets then, page 3. Here it is. Okay. Now, as I just said, I'm a massive fan of variety. And what I like to do is like to mix things up. So you know how this bit has this moving note going higher and higher. shall we? I thought, let's do the complete opposite on the next line. Let's have chords that all have a note on the A string that's exactly the same. So when I play these next few through, I'll play them and then you can hear them in a minute. Notice that the note on the A string is always the same. And then it finally has some relief when we change to this chord. So it's kind of the opposite of chromatic movement. Rather than having beautiful movement between chords, it arrests you. It makes you think, whoa, there's something new happening here, which is really exciting. And this is the kind of thing I want you to get into your own playing. It's super exciting when you get it. So all I did was I picked a note that kind of felt right at that moment in the song. It's kind of like a melody note that the vocals do, which is this high E note up here. And I tried to find the original chords in inversions, that just means a different way of playing them, that featured this note here. So instead of playing a C here or here, notice I'm playing a C. Let's go to the big pink sheet now so you can see it. Let's put it up here so I can make it a bit bigger. I'm going way up now to the 7th, 8th and 9th frets. And this is another version of a C. Now this is why it's a C chord, if you're interested how these movements work. And thanks, I think it's Karen said something lovely about my playing up the dusty end course. Thanks, Karen. This is all part of that. So what we've done really to get this C chord up here is we've taken an F chord, but try playing it with your middle two fingers, not your first two. So try playing it with these two. Okay. And we've taken that F and we've moved it up half a step. And you can bar here. That would make F sharp, right? Now if we move it again, that gives you G, another version of G. Again, G sharp. Once more gives you A sharp, B, and there's no B sharp, so we go here, C. Now this is a tricky one to play. I'm just going to give you an easy version if you like, because some people find it really hard to play up here at the fretboard, and I want everyone to be involved in this. So this is what we've got. It's an F shape with a bar on the 7th. But if you find that tricky, you can still play a G shape at the bottom 3 strings physically. So if you imagine you're playing a G major chord, but you're going to play it at the 8th and 9th frets. Okay, sound like this. You can actually play the open G as well. It sounds a bit funny with my low G because it's so low. But you can, if you're high G, you can play that open. And that's still a C chord because there is a G note in a C chord, so that's totally fine. Where am I going? What am I doing? Yeah. So rather than this first one in the pink box, which is like this, you can play it like this. Okay, not too bad, right? Then I wanted a C7 chord. We normally play it down there. That had this note in it, basically, this high E. So I used another version of a C7 chord. And this one comes from a G7 chord. So what I want you to do to practice this, it's tricky, but just give it your best shot. I want you to play G7 using your last 3 fingers. You're not allowed to use this index finger, even though you really want to, right? And then I want you to move that up and put your index finger up here. So you could bar it, but I tend to just put it up here. So I'm covering the G string. Now I've turned a G7 into a G sharp 7. See how it's working now? If I go 1 higher, I've got an A7. I'm going to use that later. 1 higher again, I've got an A sharp 7. 1 higher again, B7, 1 higher, C7. That's why it's a C7. And this C7 has that lovely stationary note in. That's why we're using it. Now, for those of you that are struggling with these bar chords, again, with this one, you know how the last one I said you could play a G shape at 7 and 8? Well, this one you can play a G7 shape at 6 and 7 like that. So you play G shape here and you switch it around. Basically, you're just ignoring the note that's on the G string. It makes it a million times easier, all right? And that's totally fine. The next one, we've got an F major 7. So rather than just playing an F, I put an F major 7 in. I'll explain why in a minute. Okay, but F major 7 is just the 5th fretboard, and you leave the 3rd finger where it is. And if you struggle with that, you could just play the bottom 3 like that. It's fine as well. Okay, so if you want easy ones, we would have G shape, G7 shape, and then bar the bottom 3. And if you're up for a challenge, we'd have this one, then we would go to this one, then we would go to this one. Okay, that gives you that one. And notice you got that stationary note there. That's why we've called it a stationary note in pink, isn't it? Yeah, I love these movable shapes, Audrey. They're great, aren't they? That F major 7 comes from a movable shape as well. A C major 7 is played by just putting a finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. Gorgeous sounding chord, that, C major 7. And all I've done is I've moved that up. C sharp major 7, D major 7, D sharp major 7, E major 7, F major 7. We did it. And that's how we got to that. Now, there's another little bit of knowledge, and if anyone wants a sheet with this written down, please email me. I meant to do this in the original worksheets, and for some reason I forgot and I haven't done it today. Certain types of chords are easy to exchange. They're all forms of the same chords. Major chords, the most common ones which we swap out, are major, major 7, 6 and 6/9. Those are all types of major chords. So in the original version we had just an F major. Now we've got an F major 7. It's just an F major with the 7th note of the scale added. Okay, again, you don't need to know that if you don't want to. So I wanted an F major sound, but it wouldn't work with F major, but it does work with F major 7, which is really, really nice. That's all right, Victoria. All of this, all in good time. I was telling one of my students yesterday who's learning jazz that when I first started learning jazz, this was like, oh gosh, I think I really got into jazz ukulele probably about 15 years ago. I learned from a guy called Glenn Rose, who since then is releasing brilliant books. Really recommended Glenn Rose Jazzy Ukulele if you get into this stuff. And I remember some of these chords he was showing it and just thinking, I physically can't do this. This is just like so hard. This is ridiculous. But now I make those shapes without even batting an eyelid. And that's not me showing off. That took me ages. I have to really work at ukulele playing. I think in some ways that's why I'm an okay teacher. I might not be the best player in the world, but because I've had to work really hard at these things, they don't come naturally to me. I know how you guys can do it, right? I can show you. So be patient like I was, and you'll get these chords after a while. And as Esther says, it's fun to practice, right? So you'll get them eventually. So that's going to be our change to that second section, if we like. Let's just go back to it. So maybe we could actually put the first page together now, I think. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go back. Now, if this is too tricky in terms of the chord changes for now, why don't you just have a listen and really enjoy the way it sounds, and then you can practice it later. Or if you want, you could play the chords lower down just as they are in the original, just to play along and enjoy the kind of contrast. Let's just go really slowly through that first page then, including these changes. Just give it your absolute best. Oh, there's one more I need to show you. There's one more. Can you see that sneaky F minor 6 at the end? There it is. Now that one, just so you can see it, this is where we break out of this stationary note. This one, again, is one of those ones that looks really tricky. Again, if you're struggling, just play the bottom 3 strings with a G7 shape at 4 and 5. Like that. That's all you need to do. So just ignore that note on the G string. Just play the bottom 3 here. If you feel more capable, basically the F minor 6 is like a D minor shape at 4 and 5. Let me come in close. D minor shape at 4 and 5, and then this little finger squishes right down here on the A string. So you've got 3 fingers all in the same fret, the 5th fret, and this one is just here behind it on the on the 4th fret, 3rd string down. Okay, so if I take that way, wrong finger, that one, it kind of looks like a G7. All right, I've got to be careful. That looks like I'm doing something rude, doesn't it? I don't want to give you the birdie, but that's the F minor 6. Again, if you struggle, just leave that one out. It's okay. You know, this is all about learning. I'm a really strong believer if you just pick up a couple of things from a workshop, that's really good. That's a really good bit of learning. Okay, so let's have a go. Oh, bless you. Thanks, Karen. That's really, oh, you guys are amazing. You're going to make me cry in a minute. Stop it, stop it, stop it. Thank you. That's really kind, everyone. Thank you. Let's try that first page then before I cry. Okay, everyone. Nice and slowly from the top. Let me come into close angle so you can just follow my fingers as we go. So normal chords first, 3 lines. 2, 3, 4. No one to talk with, I'm all by myself. See? No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. I've added a diminished in there. Okay. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving all my love for you. Notice we're going to a barred D7 here, and then the G7 is this shape. I'll talk you through that in a sec. Let's try the blue chords now. 2, 3, 4. I know for certain the one I love. How lovely is that? I'm through with flirting. It's just you I'm thinking of. And then we come back down. Ain't misbehaving, I'm saving all my love for you. F6 chord. Whoops, sorry. See, mine's squeaky. C. And then I've got that E7 at the end. Okay. Now, see, that is tricky. Mine was a little bit squeaky there in places, but that's okay. You know, I need to work at those changes, so that's cool. Take it really nice and slowly. I'll just point out one more thing on this page before we look at the next page, and we're doing really, really well here. So just take it nice and slow. Oh, thanks guys, thanks Pierre. Oh, love it. And you guys are coming up with some really great tips. So that woods are lovely. I'm so sorry, I can't think what your name is, but from your tag, I should know, shouldn't I? It's just me being daft. It's just said on the F minor 6 you can even add the E on the string 7th fret of your pinky. So it's another way of doing it, and I love this. People coming up with these other ideas. That's what jazz is all about, isn't it? It's kind of experimenting and seeing what sounds good. Just before we go on to the last page, so we're actually really getting there, and remember you can practice this at your heart's content as slow as you like later on. Just want you to notice something at the end of the 3rd line, and this is me being hopefully a little bit clever. When I go from, say, 1st position chords, like ones down here, otherwise often called open chords, to what's 2nd or 3rd position, depending on the way you look at it, I like to kind of work my way up to that so there's not a big jump. If I played the E7, A7, D7, G7 the normal way, just like this, I would finish with this G7, but the next chord is here, and that's quite a big jump. Not only is it a big jump for your fingers to get into, it also doesn't sound very smooth. They sound it's too different. There's too many high notes in this one compared to this one. And that's why, if you notice on those final 4 chords of the 3rd line, notice I'm playing a G7 here, which gets me in perfect position for a beautifully voice-led change to the C chord. Now, that G7 is basically, a lot of people find this tricky, but again, once you kind of break it down, it's not too horrible. It's an F7 moved up to. So you can play an F7 by playing an F chord and adding a finger here at the 3rd fret of the C string. And you can also add your little finger to the 3rd fret of the A string if you want. That makes it an F7 movable. If you take that up 1 fret, that will give you F sharp 7. If you take it up 1 more fret, it gives you G7. Okay. How do oh, Peter! Because it's Peter. Sorry, Pete. I've been daft. We were chatting not long ago as well, weren't we, on email and stuff. Sorry. There. Daft. Sometimes my brain goes kaput. Sorry. So, I've completely forgot what I was telling you about now. This G7, yeah. You know, I'm moving these chords up and I'm saying they go from F7 to F sharp 7 and to G7. That's just something called the chromatic scale. That just means every note you can play in the Western world. You just go up and it turns into a sharp, and then you go up 1 more and it turns into the next natural. And you can just move half a step up. And the way to learn that is it's just the alphabet going upwards. If you just add a sharp after the next one, F, F sharp, which could also be called G flat, G, G sharp. All you need to remember is there's no sharp or flat between E and F, and no sharp and flat between B and C. That's all you need to remember, and then you can use that to take chords up and down. And it's a ridiculous mnemonic. It doesn't really make any sense, but I remember it as B, cuz, elephants, fart. B to C, no sharp. E to F, no sharp. B, cuz, elephant, sharp. Elephant sharp. B, cuz, elephants, fart. That's how I remember it. Otherwise, just do the alphabet with sharps and flats. That's how it works. I just thought that was interesting anyway. So that 3rd line, we're moving our way up. So we're in the perfect place for the next bit. Again, just thinking these things through in your own arrangements really help them sound really, really beautiful. Let's have a look at that 2nd page then, as I promised, because this is where something really cool happens. Okay, so, sorry, sometimes when I change pages, this worksheet gets really big or small. It's the funny computer program I'm using. There it is. Next bit we're going to look at is the bit in yellow on your sheets, or if you're in black and white, it's just the top section here. Now, in the original, we were playing... Oh, I'm going to have to go back to remember now. What were we playing? Oh, I've got them in front of me here, sorry. I've got them printed out and I just remembered. So in the original, in this section, we were just playing A minor 7, no fingers at all. Like Jack Horner, F. In the corner, A minor 7, don't go nowhere. A7, what do I care? Now it's nice, but there's not really any movement in there. So what we're going to do is something called line cliche. Again, you don't need to know that, but I think it's interesting and a thing to remember. Line cliche is where one of your fingers stays on a chord, say A minor here, and you get a chromatic movement again. Doesn't have to be chromatic, but it normally is just going from 1 fret to the next at the same time as your other finger doesn't move. Basically, it means you're playing 1 chord, but you're also adding this little melody line beneath it, and we call that line cliche. If you're adding a melody line and the chords are changing completely, that's voice leading pretty much. If you're playing a little moving line and the chord stays the same, we call it line cliche. Okay. So really, that 2nd chord where I've called it an F, really, I should probably call it, I made a note earlier, what should we call it? Yeah, probably call it an A minor sharp 5. And I know it sounds daft, but it's just an A minor. The 5th note in A minor is E, A, B, C, D, E. And we're going to play, instead of an E, we're going to play an F, which is an E sharpened, because elephants fart. So that 2nd chord, I've called it an F because that's what it comes up with on the original lead sheet. But actually, I think it's better to think about it as an A minor sharp 5. Again, don't worry about why. I'm about to show you something really cool. And you don't have to worry about the chord theory for this. Just enjoy it. What we do is we play an A minor, and I use my second finger here. Like Jack Horner. Then I add that index finger here. In the corner. Then I add my third finger here to the second fret of the E string. Looks like a D7, but we're going to call it an A minor 6. Don't go nowhere. And then finally, we're going to move up one further to the third fret and play it. What do I care? So basically we have this moving line on the E string which goes. Yeah, Hilke, it is 4 beats per measure. I moved too quick, you're dead right. And Peter, yeah, Blue Skies is another great example of this. Yeah. So again, like Jack Horner, then put your finger down for that F note. In the corner, don't go nowhere. What do I care? And now we've got that lovely, sounds James Bondy, doesn't it? That lovely sense of movement. And that's a really lovely thing to kind of really highlight in songs like that, is that constant movement. Now, don't sweat about the whys and wherefores of this next bit, but when I go to the last one, the A7, it's going to be this next one here. I also add my finger back up here for this C sharp note. The reason I do that, if you're really nerdy into your music theory, is that we already have the A of the A7th here. And I really want the C sharp. I don't want an open C, because that'd give it a feel of like an A minor, wouldn't it? So that's why I put this one in. So I've got the A and the C sharp. So we've got the root back in basically. So we go one more time. 2, 3, 4. Add that finger to the first fret, the E string. Replace it with your middle finger here. And then as you move this finger up, see if you can get your second finger, whoops, back on that C sharp note. Isn't that lovely? Really beautiful bit of line cliche. There's loads of these. I think Blue Skies is another brilliant example. I can't remember to play it off the top of my head. I think it's around a G augmented, isn't it, or something? Can't quite remember. Another one is something in the way she moves that attracts me like. That's like another bit of line cliche from a bit of the Beatles and something. So that's again another form of movement. We still call it chromatic because we go in one fret higher each time. Okay, chromatic movement. Cool, huh? Let's have a look at the next bit. So you're doing really well, guys, because the next half of this page you've already done. So we're actually already there, which is really great. We're nearly there. Okay. Let's look at Your Kisses Are Worth Waiting For. So there's a real strong chromatic movement where I've put the green kind of boxes. But let's have a look at the bit before as well. So the original bit here was G. Your kisses are worth waiting for. Okay, down there. And I wanted it to go up the fretboard and I wanted to make it a bit more interesting. So I thought, after we play the G, let's play an A minor 7 way up here. Now that's a toughie, right? It's 5, 7, 5, 7. What I do is I kind of put these two in like a D7 shape at the 5th fret, and then I reach over with these two to fill in the gaps on the 7th fret like that. It's a bit like a diminished 7th chord, but you split it apart. Some people find it more comfortable to bar and then reach over with your fingers like that. but I find I can get it clearer if I do a 4-finger version. Again, a really tricky one, but you can get it with practice. Just get that D7 shape down first and then practice reaching over here. Yeah? Okay. And that's the same as, it's like an F minor 7, just moved up higher until it becomes an A minor 7. Okay, it takes you into a really lovely part of the fretboard, doesn't it? We're going super high now. We're almost in 3rd position, or sometimes people call it 5th position, 5th fret, depending on your teacher. Okay. Now, there's something I wanted to do, and this for anyone that's in their music theory, this can be really, really, really useful, particularly if you like playing jazz. If you want to get from one place to another place, and you it's too far a jump, what I'll often do is I'll fill in the gap with a diminished 7th chord. Now remember from earlier, there's only 3 diminished 7th chords in the world. This one, whoops, this one, this one, and this one, and then they're repeated. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Generally, the one that will fit, if we're coming from a major chord, is going to be 1/2 a step higher, so G sharp diminished 7. And what you can do is you can play around with these diminished 7ths until you find one with the note that you want, a G sharp in. There's only one here. No, it's that one, isn't it? That contains that G sharp. So if you find a diminished 7th shape with the note that it's named after that you want, that's one way of doing it. But another way is just to play the chord. Play a diminished 7 nearby. Doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right. Sounds right. Because there's only 3 different shapes in the world, you've got a 33.3% chance reoccurring of getting it right first time. But you can just play the one that sounds right. So what we're going to do now, we're going to play this G chord here. Let me come up close. Oh, there we go. Then we're going to go to the diminished chord here at 4 and 5. And remember, a tip for getting there quickly, get your little finger in first and then make a G shape on the top. Another way of thinking about it is you take this G chord shape and you move it up here and then you put your little finger down. The nice one about this to the A minor 7 is you just move up and stretch those apart. Okay, so the chords now, we've put an extra chord in above the word kisses. Your kisses, up and split apart, are worth. And then I've put a D7 here. Waiting. That's just an A7. Moved up to an A sharp 7. B7. Because elephants fart, C7. C sharp 7. D sharp, D7. Okay, that's how I've worked out how to play that one there. Now notice as I play this, we have a lovely movement again. Still on the E string. If I highlight the notes on the E string, do you hear that? Again, chromatic movement. That's why those jazz arrangers, sometimes when you see a jazz arrangement and it's just chords and words, and sometimes I used to think this, I used to think, oh well, you know, it's just the chords and the words. But even so, when it goes into these different places, sometimes the arrangers put their heart and soul into thinking about these chord changes and how to do them. And you can make it sound really nice. So that's what's happening there. So that's Your Kisses Are Worth Waiting For. Again, might take a bit of practice. Then we've got our final new bit. Don't worry guys, this is the last new bit of chords and then we'll do questions. You can all relax and we'll have a go at playing it, okay? I'm going to move to the sheet where this is written big. Let me just shrink this down. Okay, this is on page... Oh, I didn't show this earlier, but there at the top of page 6, you've got your line cliche. That's the bit on the where we stay on that A minor chord for Jack Horner. But here's the final new bit. We've got this downward chromatic movement. And the reason I did these diagrams, hopefully you'll see really nicely, you can physically see, if we look over here, that the green dot is going lower and lower and lower. And when that dot moves when that dot moves 1 fret at a time, we call it half a step or a chromatic movement. So we're going backwards down a chromatic scale. And that creates, again, rather than this, which sounds all right, have a listen to this. I don't know about anyone else, but that's way more satisfying to my ears because I'm hearing movement, right? No worries, Angela. Breakfast is calling. Gosh, you must be up earlier. Must be up early. I think Angela's in Australia, aren't you? Which makes sense. I think I might have got it wrong. Okay, so this one we're playing that G7 shape again, which is an F7 moved higher. This one here. Okay, here's our F7, isn't it? You can play it like that, like this, and that's just moved up to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Again, this might be really hard, but just give it your best. Then we move back to this A7. This one's tricky. What I do is I take these 2 fingers off, move these 2 fingers back, and I put these 2 back on in a different position. Looks almost like a reverse F. I'll do that again. So from this G7 chord, come in really close, look. I take these 2 off, these 2 back, and then I put them back down in this order. Again, if you find it difficult, just play the bottom 3 strings. It will still work, okay? So we've gone from here to here. And the main thing is, we're just hearing that lovely movement down. This one's not too bad, just a D7. And then we've just got a bog standard G7. So again, another kind of, it looks, when you do it, you know, speed, it looks really fancy and tricky, but once you've got past this A7th chord, it's actually alright, because you just got a D7 and G7. And again, beautiful chromatic movement. I'll play them both one more time so you can hear it. The original is... Now, particularly with my low G, that sounds not great. Oh, sorry guys, I must be getting tired. I'll try that again. That's so much more satisfying, isn't it? So that's our last new bit, and we put that in on the second half of the second page basically, and yeah, second half of the chorus. The bottom of this page, let's go here so you're not looking at my double chin. The bottom of this page, we're just back to the stuff we were doing at the start. We've got that I don't stay out late, diminished, D minor 7, don't care to go, and so on and so forth. So what I'll do, let's play it in slow motion. So if anyone does want to try playing along, you can join in with me, but we'll go really slow, okay? That's why I'm not strumming it. This could be strum like that. Sorry, my G string's gone out. Sorry, guys. That's better. So, yeah, we could be strumming like that, but to make those changes that quick, they're doable, but it's tricky. You know, I've played these loads of times. Even though I was like, having to really think about that. So we're going to go really slow so it gives you your time to do them, and you can copy my fingers. If this is too hard in terms of the fingering for now, you can either use your alternate ones, you could stay with them, or just enjoy it. Just watch the screen, watch the progressions, and then you can always take this away and work on it slowly yourself later on. I'm a real strong believer in, if you can play something slowly, you can play it fast. It's just practice, right? So if you don't get it now, don't panic. That is absolutely fine. I once went to a workshop with James Hill where he's teaching something. I can't remember. It might have been like it's like triplet picking, and it was freight train, and he said, oh, what you do is you sort of. No, I'm just going to try and remember. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I was staying with him. And then he was like, and then you go. And then my brain just went. But what I did was I just recorded him playing it. I actually just used my mobile phone, recorded him on video. And then when I got home, I was a bit sneaky. I just watched it back really slow. And sometimes that's what you've got to do. Just kind of just soak it all in and then practice it at your own pace later on. I think that's a really good way of doing it. And a brilliant thing about YouTube, this is going to stay on YouTube forever, well, as long as YouTube exists. There's a little, if you go to the top right box in your settings, you can alter the playback speed. And it's so clever because it slows it down, but it keeps the pitch the same. So you could literally watch this live lesson back later on. And when I did get to this bit, you could go extra slow and still play along, which is another good thing to do. You just have to remember to turn it back to normal when I'm talking. Otherwise, I sound like this. Okay. Anyway, I'm being daft. Let's see if we can play through very slow motion the whole thing. Let's give it a go. I'll come in super close with my hands, okay, so you can just follow it along. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. No one to talk with. D minor 7. I'm all by myself. C7. C even. No one to walk with. Now C7. But I'm happy on the shelf. Can we do that diminished there? Ain't misbehaving. I'm saving all my love. E7 for you. Notice it's starting to move up the fretboard after this chord, D7 here. Then our blue box. I know for certain the one I love. Way up here now. I'm through with flirting. It's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving. I'm saving all my love for you. F6. Now we're going to pause a second whilst I flip the page. E7. Next bit's our line cliche. 2, 3, 4. Like Jack Horner in the corner. Don't go nowhere. What do I care? Your kisses split my apart are worth waiting for. Notice the downward movement. Believe me. Last bit blue chords. I don't stay out late. Don't care to go. Whoops, what am I doing? Sorry guys. I'm home about 8. It's just me and my radio. And we come back down. Ain't misbehaving. I'm saving all my love for. Now to end it, C6/9. You. I didn't warn you about that one. Hope you did all right on that, guys. Remember, you don't have to be able to get it now. You can come back to it later on. When I did that James Hill thing, I got what he was doing eventually, but it took me a few weeks of working on it. That last chord, incidentally, we call it a C6/9. If you're interested, a C6/9 is a type of major chord. Basically anything with a 6 at the start, unless it says minor 6, is a type of major chord. So a C6 is a type of major chord, and a C6/9 is a type of major chord. If you're into your theory, a C6 is a C major chord with the 6 added, and a C6/9 is a C major chord with the 6th note of the scale and the 9th note added. I kind of think of it as like a D7, but we're covering 2 frets. It's not related to a D7, but I just mean in terms of fingering. Okay, so yeah. Oh, John, I didn't see you earlier. John's here. Cool. That's it. Yeah, slow practice. Slow practice. And sometimes, like, you'll go wrong, and that's totally fine. I was doing that classic teaching thing where it was a bit of a bad teacher thing to do. Where rather than concentrating on my playing, I was thinking about what I was going to tell you guys next, which is a common thing that us teachers do. You know, it's that swan thing where you have to look like you're settled on the top, but you're underneath the water. Your feet are going like this, and that's why I missed the chord when it went up there. But if I can go wrong, you can go wrong, right? It's okay. So just be chilled with yourself. What I'm going to do now, because that was a lot of theory, wasn't it, and a lot of moving and everything, rather than just keep playing it through, you can do that in your own time, can't you? I'm just going to hang around and I'm going to take any questions, because sometimes I think that's the best way, just to make sure you've all understood, and just see if there's something that I've forgotten or not explained very well, so you guys can really dig into it. So I'll be here for I can be here half an hour if you like, whatever you want, until you get bored. Just hit me up with any questions that you've got in that. Doesn't even necessarily have to be to do with the chords. It could be to do with the technique. If you just whilst I'm waiting for some questions to come in, if you are wanting to do this yourself, a lot of it is just thinking about options, isn't it? You know, when at the end of that 4th line I said I went from, instead of this G7 here, I played this one. And you might think, well, I want to make some arrangements and I want to go up to the dusty part of the fretboard. How do I know which chord will work nicely? Well, just again, you don't have to buy the book. There are other versions available. But the point is, I'm not trying to get you to buy the book, although I am. Yeah, I am. It's more about the fact that, to show you that it's not rocket science. A lot of teachers make things, hopefully I've not done this, but it's possible I have. Some teachers make things sound more difficult than they are, because they want you to think it's all like really mystical stuff that they're really super clever at and you're not. And I hate that in teachers. I think that's the worst possible thing to do in teaching. I think the best teachers are the ones that empower you, and I think that's really, really important. And this is an example of it, right? So I wanted a G7 chord that took me into 2nd position up the fretboard. Here's your G7 chords written out in the booklet. And again, you can Google these things. You don't have to buy the book. It's not all about me making money. I don't like teachers like that either. All you do is you look up different versions, right? I can play a G there. There's one that will bridge a gap to 2nd position. So I wanted to go super high up the fretboard. I could do this one here, this green, finding it hard to get it in shot. This green chord. So say I wanted to travel further up, I could do that one. And even further still, I could do the blue ones. So what I'm getting at is it's not rocket science. Sometimes it can sound really amazing and it can seem like it's really difficult stuff. But it's just finding different versions of the same chords. And again, the other thing, just hit me up if anyone would like this written out in a sheet, because I have done one. The other thing that really helps with this is to know the different types of the same chord. So if anyone's got a pen and paper handy, just make some quick notes now. So the most common major chords that you'll swap out would be a major 7, a 6, and a 6/9. There are others like augmenteds, but those are the main ones, okay? So major chords, major 7, 6, 6/9, okay? So what I'm getting at is if you couldn't find a chord that worked for say a C major up the fretboard, you might find one that works as a C major 7. That's what I did earlier. I had an F major that didn't work, but an F major 7 did. So those are the ones that you can swap out with majors. And the minor ones are basically the same. You just put minor in front of them. So minor, minor 6, minor 7. We don't really do minor 6/9. You can, but it's a bit weird. So the main three for minor are, I would say, minor, minor 6 and minor 7. And then finally, the other main type of chord that we've got is our dominant chord. So that, it just means a 7. So say a G7, that's the type of dominant chord. And the most common to swap a 7 to is a 9th or a 13th. There is an 11th chord as well, but that's not used very often because one of the notes clashes with another. So that 7th chords you most likely swap for a 9th or a 13th. And then there's only one other main type of chord, like diatonic chord. That just means like natural chord that comes up in a scale, and that's the diminished. And on our ukulele, we pretty much always just play those as diminished sevenths. Sometimes we'll play a half diminished, which is something called minor 7 flat 5, but don't sweat that. Just think diminished, just try different diminished sevenths and you can see the ones that work. So those are the three main types of chords: a major chord, minor chord, and a dominant chord. And if you know which ones you can swap out, you can just experiment. And that's how a lot of people come up with nice arrangements even without all this chromatic movement, is they just swap them out. So they kind of, it adds a bit of salt and pepper to your playing. So it's quite a cool thing to do. So yeah, I'll just see if we've got any let's have a look. Yay, we got a question. I love questions. By the way, there's never a silly question. I love every kind of question. It means that you're getting involved, which is amazing. Victoria, Esther's pointed out that Victoria asked if there's an easy way from D7 to G7 at the end of the third line. Let's check it out. D7 to... so we go from here to this one. I think if there would be an easy way. You could. I think because I want that nice high C in that D7, guys. I think I do want to keep that barred one rather than say go into a Hawaiian one. I was trying to think if there's a Hawaiian one that would slide up better. I think I do want to go there. I think the best thing to do is think about how to build this G7 quickly, and that's really good bit of advice anyway, because that will help you anytime it comes up. If you ever want to get to this G7 shape, and it's one of the most commonly used because it puts you perfectly in a space between open positions and up the fretboard positions. If you ever want to get there quickly, what I think, you're coming from that D7, aren't you? What I always do is I put my fingers in an F chord first, because your fingers will be used to playing an F chord from being back here, won't they? You can probably play an F chord with your eyes closed. So say you're coming from here, you go to your F chord first, here, and then these two fingers, which are just flapping around desperate to do something, these two can then land on those open two strings, and it's kind of this shape, isn't it, on those two. So it's the same with a lot of chords. If you kind of lead with a shape you already know, F, then you put those two down, and it's just like going from an F to an F7 here. Okay. So that would be my advice. From the D7, nope, D7's there. Change to these and pop those down. Okay. So don't another quick little tip. If you've got a chord like that, eventually you'll be able to put all four down at the same time like that. But don't be afraid to just do a couple of fingers at a time as you're learning it and then give it a strum. That's totally cool. It's okay to build into the chord. There's a really neat trick to practice that. Yeah, the swapping out stuff, Karen. I'll put a Facebook post with the sheet on, so you can just go to my Dropbox and download it. I think it's already in my Dropbox. I just need to give everyone the link. So I'll put it at the bottom of the comments here, and I'll put it in Facebook as well, so you can feel it. Richard's feeling diminished after that session. Full on. It was pretty full on, wasn't it? Cheers. I know a lot of people are having to head off now, so thanks everyone for your support and enjoying the lesson. I'm going to give one more thing about just for anyone that's still here, about getting to chords quickly, and it's a little exercise. Let me come back here. So one of my favourite exercises for getting to chords quickly to practice it is, it's easier to show you than explain it. What I want you to do is strum a particularly difficult chord. Let's try this G7. Then what I want you to do is tap your hand to your leg. And as you count the rest of the way to 8, see if you can get your hand back on that G7 so you're ready to strum again. I'll show you what I mean. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then we're going to do it again, but this time we're going to tap our knee twice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We strum on 1 again, and this time we tap 3 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You're probably getting it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's getting harder, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1. I made it. And the idea is it kind of gets you used to putting your fingers down gradually, a little bit quicker at a time. And you might find you drop out at some point. So some people might only get to 2 taps of the legs and then get perfectly back in time for the next one. Some people will then get to 4, and then the more you do it, you get to 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you get to 8, you've nailed it. That's when you can be all cocky and go, yes, I can do that quickly. Brilliant thing to practice with any chords. It's kind of a fun game. Maybe a little bit sadomasochist, I don't know. But it's a fun way of kind of just testing yourselves and getting you those chords quickly. And remember me harking back to when I learnt this stuff. That one, right? That minor 7th shape there, which is also a 6th shape. When I first started doing jazz stuff, and I even played a smaller uke, so it's less of a stretch than a tenor, at one point I just thought, nah, I'm not going to play that chord. I'll just think of an alternative. If it comes up, I'm not going to play it. It's too hard. But the more I did it, the more my fingers got used to that stretch, and now it feels pretty comfortable, really, even with my baby hands. So just stick at it. Just a little bit of practice every day. Try some of those hard chords, and yeah, just a little bit of practice will go a long way. And you know my songs, like I did that Psy Waltz that some of you did that live lesson with me last time, where I did this. Can't quite remember it now. Something like that, wasn't it? A lot of the kind of music that I come up with, I just do via noodling. So I just kind of noodle away with chord progressions, and it's a great way of practicing stuff. My favourite chord progression in the world at the moment is 2-5-1-6. Normally we play 1-6-2-5 as a progression. I got rhythm. But I really love the sound of a D minor 7, followed by a G7, followed by a C major 7, and then a lovely A7 augmented. And I just love that. I would just practice that round again and again. I am going somewhere with this, I promise. It's my favourite chord combination. And then what I did was I used, you could use a book or Google or whatever. I saw if I could sort of wondered if I could do those chords in different places. So maybe D minor 7 up here, G7, C major 7 you can play up here, and A7. And then maybe I think, I could change them round. I could play D minor 7, followed by G9 with that one added. Then I could play a C major 7. Then I might play an A9 So it's kind of a nice way, just find some chord combinations that you really love and just see if you can take them up and down the fretboard, put them in different positions. That'd be a really good thing to do. And then finally, if you're feeling like super confident, you're like, wow, I'm getting this, and I really want to have a go. What you could do is you could find your own jazz standard. You can get these things called real books, which give you the core chords to jazz songs. I've got a load of them at home, which just cover like pretty much every jazz standard ever. And I'll just pick out one that I like, and I'll see if I can make an arrangement like this. So perhaps you could have a go at that yourself, which would be a really nice thing to do. I'll just hang on just a little bit further in case there's any questions. Just whilst I am, I'll just do a bit of housekeeping, just in case anyone's still here. Just a reminder, next Monday we're not going to be here for Canacapila. Canacapila Mondays are where we gather every Monday at 6 o'clock in the evening UK time, and I show you how to play without reading sheet music. So it's all about recognising chord progressions, and we even look at things like soloing and picking and offbeat chords and stuff like that. So if you're interested, the next one for that is going to be in a couple of weeks' time. So I'm away next Monday, but I'll be back the Monday after that. Just going to see if I can find there we go. This is what it looks like. So and if this is your first time you found my stuff on YouTube, the best thing to do if you enjoy this is to either subscribe to my YouTube channel. That way you'll get an email to tell you when the next live lesson and Canacapila are coming up. Doesn't cost anything. It's just so that they can send you notifications to tell you when stuff's happening. Or if you go to my website, mattsteadukulele.com, they're all listed there. It'll tell you when the next one is, and it'll give you all the old ones. And I say this every time, but it's worth repeating it. If you enjoyed this and you want to check out more live lessons, there's lots of archived ones. So I've been doing these every couple of weeks for a few months now, so you can go back and you can look at the old ones. And you can't comment live, but you can still see everyone's comments and questions coming through, and you can still take part, and you can still download the sheet music as well. So if you enjoyed this, check out some of those other ones. And on there as well, you'll find my YouTube courses. So there's a beginner's course, which goes from how to hold the ukulele in the first place to how to tune it and everything. Then there's an intermediate for when you're getting a bit more confident. You might want to start venturing to different rhythms and things like that. Next steps, where we talk about chord melody and fun ways of playing like clawhammer. Playing up the dusty end, which I mentioned earlier, which is all about going higher up your fretboard. That one's a little bit, the teaching in it I'm really proud of, but that was before I worked out how to record very well on YouTube, so it's a bit fuzzy. It's like watching something from the 1990s. And there's one more. Oh yeah, I've got a ukulele theory course there as well. So if you enjoy the theory side and you want to know, you know, like crazy things like why does one chord shape have two different names and stuff like that? What the heck is a minor 7 flat 5? It's all there explained, and it's all there in the context of ukulele, so you can look that up. So yeah, brilliant. So, oh, Victoria's off on holiday, lucky thing. Brilliant, thanks Victoria. Off to Spain, lovely, lovely. I love taking my ukulele on holiday. I've got an outdoor ukulele, which is kind of like, it's almost like a plastic one, but it just comes with me everywhere. It's even been on a canoe before. I didn't use it as a paddle, but it has been on the canoe. So yeah. Oh, okay, so Karen's just you've got a tricky part you're learning. Fleetwood Mac say you love me. Yeah, that's really good exercise to practice those. I would say, Karen, another thing, if you're practicing a particular song and there's one bit that's really tricky, just keep practicing those 2 or 3 measures. Just get really, really comfortable with them before you go back to the rest of the song. Because I find if you just keep practicing the song through, you start getting anxious, don't you, when that difficult bit's coming up. So practice it on its own first, and then put it together. So that should help. Cheers, Victoria. Enjoy that holiday in Spain. Cheers, Richard. Take care. I didn't know there's a real book app, John. That's really cool. You can flip the keys and everything. Oh man, I'm going to have to look that up. That sounds absolutely brilliant. Fantastic. Victoria, yeah, the Wednesday lessons are every 2 weeks. Canacapila Mondays every week, apart from next week when I'm away. And these live lessons every 2 weeks. So there'll be another one in 2 weeks' time. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. If there's something you want to learn, let me know and I'll see whether I can explain it. I'm always glad to help that as well. Well, Esther, if I get this retreat sorted, maybe next year you could all come to England and join me. So next year we're trying to organise another ukulele retreat. So this morning I was looking at this really beautiful venue. It's a place called Speech House. It used to be the King's Hunting Lodge in the middle of the forest. Obviously I'm not into my hunting, I'm a vegetarian. But it's a beautiful, beautiful old house right in the middle of the forest. It used to be a verderer's court as well, which is where they trial people for poaching. But it's got these gorgeous grounds and it's got like an arboretum in the background and you've got the coniferous forest the other side. It's just really glorious. So I'm looking at that as a potential venue for the next retreat. And the retreat is where we get 4 or 5 brilliant teachers from all around the world. And they all come to my place in the forest and we have a whole weekend of learning. So we split up into small groups. So you get a lesson with every single teacher. You kind of rotate around them. And then we have welcome drinks Friday, teachers concert Saturday, where you can just chill and enjoy them playing. And then on Sunday, what we've always done in the past is you'll break out into groups with one particular tutor and that tutor will teach you a piece of music and then you get to perform it as a group to the rest of the wide group, which is really good fun. And there's no pressure because it's all really supportive and everything, and you know you're just one of many. You don't have to do anything scary on your own. So yeah, all sorts of stuff. But I'm going to combine it with my love of nature as well. So this next year we're going to do one of my ukulele walks where we're going to go for a walk in the forest somewhere really beautiful, bring our ukes, and we're going to have a jam and maybe a little impromptu lesson right in the middle of the forest. So that's all the plan. So best way to keep in touch with that, just like everything else, just like my Facebook page or just keep checking out the website Matt Stead Ukulele, and I tend to put things on there. I'm kind of migrating more over to this for my teaching stuff, my mattsteadukulele.com. There is stuff on the Uke Room, which is my shop side of things. I will put about the retreat and stuff on there. But if it's teaching stuff you're after, Matt Stead Ukulele is where it will all be. So yeah, fantastic. So yeah, next year, 2023. The lady who I was talking to at Speech House said that earlier. Is it 2023 you're after? And I thought, no, that sounds way in the future. But it is. That's next year. We'll all get together and we'll do that. We'll do that group session. Oh, thanks, guys. Oh, I missed so many people. Thank you. Oh, Victoria, bless you. Thank you. Yeah, tip jar if you want to. It's just down here under my logo. paypal.me/Ukroom. Not obliged at all, but if you want to, it's brilliant. Every little helps me do this. I'm trying to do more of this YouTube stuff because it feels like we're building a lovely little community, which I love. So it helps me do it because obviously by doing this, I haven't got so much time for one-to-one lessons. So it's really appreciated. Thanks, guys. So yeah, brilliant. Pete, yeah, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be fab. I'm excited. So yeah. Brilliant. Okay, guys, I'm going to sign off now. So thank you to everyone that's supported me. Thanks to everyone that's come today. You guys are what makes this. If it was just me talking to myself for 2 hours, it'd be pretty dry, wouldn't it? So thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all your lovely comments. Thank you for taking part. And I really mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thanks for supporting me as a teacher and a friend as well. So really appreciate that, folks. And I'll see you in 2 weeks on a Wednesday for the next one of these, and a week Monday for the next Canacapila. Take care, everyone. Bye.